Gods of our land, give me a child.
In this village, only pregnant women were respected, only they were seen as truly blessed. But Ola had no child, and every day, their laughter reminded her of her pain. Ola was married to Dosin, a kind man whose love for her was deep and true. For 5 beautiful years, their home was filled with laughter, songs, and love. But there was one thing missing. One thing that made Ola's heart ache every single day. She had no child. In Nikita village, having children was everything. People believed that a woman's joy and respect came from the cry of a baby in her home. The more children she had, the more the people bowed to her. But Ola's house was always silent. No baby's laughter. No little footsteps running around. Every morning, the women of Nikita gathered by the river to fetch water. They would sit on big stones, washing clothes, splashing water, and laughing loudly. And every time Ola walked by, their laughter grew louder. "Look at her," one of them would whisper, pretending to hide her mouth. "She looks beautiful, but her womb is empty," another would say. When she reached home, Dosin would see the sadness in her eyes. "My love," he would say softly, holding her hand, "don't let their words hurt you. You are more than what they think." But tears would still roll down Ola's cheeks. "Dosin," she would whisper, her voice trembling, "why won't God give us a child?" At night, she would lie awake, staring at the roof, listening to the crickets outside, wishing, just wishing, that she could hear the cry of a baby. Temi was the loudest woman in all of Nikita village. Everyone knew her. She had 6 noisy children who ran around the village like little goats. They shouted, laughed, and sometimes fought, but Temi loved to show them off. Every morning, when the sun was still waking up and the air smelled fresh, Temi and the other women gathered by the river to fetch water. The river sparkled like glass, and birds sang in the trees. But the peace never lasted long, because that was when the gossip began. Temi would see Ola walking down the path with her water pot on her head. "Ah, look at her!" Temi would shout so everyone could hear. "A woman so beautiful, yet not even one child to show for it." The women around her would burst into laughter, loud and cruel. One of them would clap her hands and say, "Maybe the gods are angry with her." Another would laugh and shake her head, "All her beauty has gone to waste. What is beauty if your arms are always empty?" When she got home, she put down her water pot carefully, sat on the floor, and stared at the empty corner of her hut, the corner where she had once placed a small baby's mat, hoping one day she would need it. But it was still empty. The loneliness came like a shadow, wrapping around her. Her heart ached for something she couldn't touch, a baby's cry, a tiny hand, a warm little body resting on her chest. Dosin, her husband, would kneel beside her, gently lift her chin, and say in his calm voice, "My love, do not listen to them. It is God who gives children. You are enough for me." Ola would smile weakly, trying to believe him, but her eyes would still glisten with tears. At night, when Dosin slept peacefully beside her, she would lie awake, listening to the night birds, whispering to the moon, "Please, God, just one child. Please." Her mother-in-law was not a kind woman. Her face always looked serious, and her eyes were sharp like the tip of a needle. When she spoke, her voice was loud and heavy, like thunder before the rain. "You have been in this house for 5 whole years," she would shout, pointing her wrinkled finger at Ola. 5 years, and still no child. No grandchildren to make me smile. No baby to carry on my back. What kind of woman are you?" Ola would sit quietly, her eyes lowered to the ground. She dared not speak. Every word from Mema Dosin felt like a knife to her heart. She had prayed to every god she knew. She had knelt before priests and poured palm oil on many shrines. She had even stayed awake all night, whispering prayers to the stars. But still, no child. Sometimes, When Mama Dawson's voice grew too loud, Dawson would beg his mother to stop. "Please, Mama," he would say gently. "Don't speak to her like that. She is trying." But Mama Dawson would hiss loudly. "Trying? Her trying has brought me nothing. My friends already have grandchildren playing in their yards, and me? Nothing. Only silence." That night, after another cruel argument, Ola could no longer bear it. Tears blurred her eyes as she ran out of the compound, barefoot, into the dark night. The moon hid behind the clouds, and the wind whispered through the trees. The forest loomed ahead, dark and thick, but she didn't care. She just wanted to escape the pain, the voices, the laughter. Her feet brushed against leaves and roots until she found herself before a great tree. It was taller than any tree she had ever seen, its trunk wide and ancient. The air around it felt strange, cold and quiet. The villagers called it the forbidden tree. They said spirits lived inside it, spirits that spoke in the wind and punished those who came too close. But Ola didn't care. She fell to her knees at the foot of the tree. Her tears dropped onto the soil. "Oh, great spirit of the tree," she cried, her voice trembling, "please hear me. I have been mocked and shamed because I cannot bear a child. I have prayed, I have fasted, I have begged. If there is any mercy left in this world, please bless me with a child of my own. I am willing to do anything." Ola held her breath. The silence pressed around her like a heavy blanket. Slowly, she stood up, wiping her face. Just as she turned to leave, a voice called softly, "Ola." She froze. Her heart jumped. The voice came again, gentle but clear. "Ola." Her hands shook as she turned around. Standing behind her was an old woman, so old that her hair was as white as cotton. She wore a long white robe that seemed to glow under the moonlight. Her eyes sparkled with a strange light, deep and wise, as if she had lived for hundreds of years. Who are you?" Ola whispered, stepping back in fear. The old woman smiled faintly. "Do not be afraid, my child," she said. "I am the servant of this tree. I heard your cry. Tell me, why do you weep so bitterly?" Ola fell to her knees again. "I weep because I cannot have a child. The village women laugh at me. My mother-in-law hates me. I am called Barren. I will give anything, to have a child of my own." The old woman nodded slowly. "You speak of children as if they are the only measure of your worth," she said softly. "But there is more to life than the gift of motherhood. Do you not see the beauty, the kindness, and the strength within you?" Ola shook her head, crying harder. "Please. I don't want beauty. I don't want praise. I just want a child. Please, help me. I'll do anything." "If you are truly willing to do anything," she said in a voice that now sounded almost like the wind itself, "then I will show you the way. Follow this path," she said softly, her voice calm but powerful. "It will lead you to the heart of the tree. Pluck one leaf from it and return to me." She walked for what felt like hours. The deeper she went, the stranger the forest became. The trees seemed to whisper her name, Ola. At last, she reached a great golden yellow tree that shimmered like the morning sun. It was growing out of a large, glowing tree trunk. The petals were soft and bright, and the whole place smelled sweet, like honey. Ola's eyes widened in wonder. She stretched out her hand slowly, her fingers trembling. Then, she plucked a single leaf. But just as she turned to leave, a deep, echoing voice filled the air. "Beware of your choices," the voice said, soft but strong. "What you seek comes with a price." Ola froze. Her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it in her ears. She spun around quickly, eyes wide, searching the shadows. "Who's there?" she whispered. But there was no one. Only the wind, whispering through the leaves. The forest went still again. Clutching the yellow leaf to her chest, she hurried back the way she came. When she returned, the old woman was still waiting under the great tree, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You have done well," the old woman said with a gentle smile. She took the leaf carefully from Ola's hand. "Now listen closely, my child. When you return to your village, plant this leaf in your backyard. Water it every day. Do not stop, no matter what happens. When the time is right, it will show you the way to motherhood." Ola's heart leapt with joy. She fell to her knees in gratitude. "Thank you, wise one," she cried. Then she turned and ran home, her bare feet brushing through the grass. Her heart was full of hope, for the first time in years. When she got home, she dug a small hole behind her hut. She planted the yellow leaf gently, covering it with soil. Every morning and every evening, she watered it. She whispered prayers over it, her eyes full of hope. Days turned into weeks. Then one morning, she saw it, a tiny sprout pushing out from the ground. Her heart jumped. She clapped her hands and smiled so wide her cheeks hurt. But as the days passed, the sprout grew faster than any normal plant. It spread across her backyard, its leaves glowing faintly under the moonlight. It was beautiful, but also strange. At night, she sometimes heard soft humming coming from the plant, like a baby's giggle mixed with the sound of the wind. It made her heart race, both in fear and in wonder. One night, she fell asleep and had a strange dream. She dreamed she was in her hut, holding a baby boy with bright eyes. He smiled at her, and her heart filled with joy. But just as she tried to touch his face, he vanished into thin air. She woke up crying, her heart heavy and confused. Meanwhile, the villagers began to notice the mysterious plant growing behind her hut. They gathered in groups, whispering. "What is that strange thing in Ola's garden?" one woman said. "Maybe she went to the forest to seek dark powers," another whispered. "Ah! She wants to have a child by witchcraft." Even Mama Dosin came storming to her house. "Ola!" she shouted angrily, pointing at the glowing plant. "What is this nonsense in my son's home? You will bring a curse upon this family." Ola knelt down quietly, tears filling her eyes, but she said nothing. She only kept watering the plant. She refused to stop. Something in her heart told her this was the only way. Days later, as she bent to water it again, she noticed something new. A fruit, small and golden, was hanging from one of the vines. It shone softly like it had its own light. Her hands trembled as she plucked it. She held it close and took it inside. That night, she dreamed again. The old woman from the forest appeared, her white robe fluttering like mist. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were serious. "The fruit you plucked," the old woman said, "is not an ordinary fruit. It is a child. But remember, my dear, a gift from the spirit world comes with a price." Ola's heart began to beat fast. What is the price, wise one?" she asked softly. "If you eat the fruit," the old woman said, "you will give birth to a son. He will be strong, clever, and full of light. But you must share him with the world. You will not own him alone." Ola stared at the old woman, her lips shaking. Her mind spun with fear and hope. "Share him with the world," she whispered. The old woman nodded slowly. "If you are truly ready for this path, eat the fruit at sunrise." Then, like a cloud fading into the wind, the old woman disappeared. Ola woke up suddenly, gasping. Her heart pounded like a drum. She looked at the golden fruit lying beside her bed, glowing softly in the dark. She was scared, but then she remembered all the years of laughter, the pain, the shame. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I will do it." When dawn broke and the first light of morning touched her hut, Ola lifted the fruit to her lips. She closed her eyes and took a bite. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. One morning, as the sun rose softly over the hills of Nikita, Ola felt something strange inside her, something warm and alive. Her heart began to race. Could it be? She waited, breathless, and soon it became clear, Ola was pregnant. Her eyes filled with tears of joy. She ran to tell her husband, Dosin, her voice trembling with happiness. Dosin! Dosin! It has happened! Dosin froze for a moment, his eyes wide with surprise. Then he lifted her into his arms and twirled her around, laughing and crying all at once. Oh, my love! God has done it! We will be parents! Even Mama Dosin, who had always been harsh, began to soften. She brought Ola food, checked on her daily, and smiled proudly at her daughter-in-law. The same villagers who once mocked Ola now came to her house with gifts. They could hardly believe it. The woman they had called Barren was finally with child. But deep inside, Ola kept a secret she told no one. Every night, she had the same dream, the old woman's voice whispering softly in her ear, "He will not belong to this world alone." And each time, Ola would wake up sweating, her heart pounding. Months later, her baby boy was born. He was perfect. His skin was smooth and golden like morning sunlight, his eyes soft and calm, as though they had seen the stars before. She and Dosin named him Olutosin, which meant God is worthy to be praised. From the moment he was born, everyone knew he was no ordinary child. He rarely cried. Instead, he would look around the room quietly, his tiny eyes watching everything, as if he could see things others could not. One sunny afternoon, when he was only a few months old, Ola carried him through the village. Suddenly, a strong wind began to blow. The trees bent, dust filled the air, and people ran into their huts, shouting, "Hold your roofs! The storm is coming!" But little Olutosin just laughed. He stretched out his tiny hands toward the sky, and instantly the wind stopped. The air grew still and quiet. Everyone came out of their huts, staring at him in shock. "Did you see that?" one man whispered. "The child stopped the wind," another woman gasped. As Olutosin grew older, his gifts became even stronger. When he crawled, flowers bloomed wherever his little hands touched. Animals, goats, birds, even wild deer, would come close to him, their eyes gentle, as though they recognized something holy in him. At first, Ola was filled with joy. But as she watched his strange powers grow, she began to worry. Each night, the old woman's voice returned in her dreams, echoing softly, "Remember, he will not belong to this world alone." When Olutosin turned 5, Ola could no longer hold her fears. One evening, she took him by the hand and walked deep into the forest, to the same ancient tree where it had all begun. She knelt before it and cried, "Wise one, please appear to me. Tell me what awaits my son. What is the meaning of his gift?" A soft light shimmered through the trees, and the old woman appeared once again, her white robe glowing in the moonlight. "Ola," she said kindly, "you have done well raising your son. He is special and rare. The heavens blessed you with him because of your tears and the years you were mocked. But his life will not be like others." Ola's heart trembled. "What do you mean?" she asked softly. The old woman looked deep into her eyes. "As he grows, he will have to choose his own path. One day, he will be called to use his gifts, to heal the sick, to comfort the broken, to bring peace to places full of pain. But he must not marry, or his powers will leave him, and he will become an ordinary man. The choice will be his." Ola's tears fell to the ground. "But, he's just a child," she whispered. The old woman smiled gently. "Yes. But he will grow. And when that day comes, you must let him go. Remember, as I told you, he is not yours alone. The world needs him." Then the old woman vanished into the air, leaving behind the faint sound of wind through the leaves. Years passed, and everything she said came true. Olutosin's powers became stronger. He could heal the sick with a touch. He could speak to animals and understand their cries. The villagers no longer whispered about Ola, they honored her. People from faraway places came to see the miraculous boy. But deep inside, Ola's heart was heavy. She knew the day of his choice would come. When Olutosin turned 18, he came to his mother one morning. His eyes glowed softly, and his voice was calm. "Mother," he said, "I have been having dreams. The spirits say I must go to the city in the north. There are sick people waiting for me. From there, I will travel from city to city, healing the world. I may not return soon." Ola's heart broke. Tears filled her eyes as she reached for his hands. "My son, must you go?" He smiled gently, just like the old woman once did. "Mother, this is my path. You gave me life, but the world needs me now." Ola hugged him tightly, her tears wetting his shoulder. She realized the moment had come, the moment the old woman had warned her about. The next morning, the whole village gathered to see Olutosin off. The boy who once made flowers bloom now stood tall and strong. The wind blew softly as if bowing to him. He smiled one last time at his mother before walking away into the sunrise. From that day, people across the land told the story of Ola and her son, the child of the great tree, born out of love, mocked by the world, yet chosen by the heavens. And though Ola missed her son deeply, her heart was filled with peace. She had played her part in something far greater than herself. And deep in the forest, under the moonlight, the ancient tree still stood, tall, silent, and glowing softly, guarding the secret of the child who was born between heaven and earth. To every waiting mother, God has heard your tears and prayers. In His time, your womb will laugh again. Keep believing, miracles still happen.